Welcome to Marriage IQ, the podcast for the intelligent spouse.
I'm Dr. Heidi Hastings.
And I'm Dr. Scott Hastings.
We are two doctors, two researchers, two spouses, two lovers, and two incredibly different human beings coming together for one purpose: to transform the stinky parts of your marriage into scintillating ones, using intelligence mixed with a little fun.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are so glad to have you back again.
That's a little overkill. They don't stop by themselves.
And we don't have people clapping. It's just our studio sound.
Oh, just wishful thinking, huh?
But no, I think that it's exciting. We're still having Dr. Kathleen Smith here. She is a therapist who works with the Bowen Center, teaches some courses there. She has her own private practice in Washington, D.C. She is an author of this very insightful and impactful book called True to You, a therapist's guide to stop pleasing others and start being yourself.
And what's your other book? I know you have one other one too.
It's called Everything Isn't Terrible.
So welcome back, Dr. Smith.
Thank you. Happy to chat more.
So we were talking in the last episode about overfunctioning and how that often leads to distancing in our relationship. Can you tell us a little bit more about what distancing is and what contributes to it?
Yeah, it's just one of those predictable patterns to manage tension, right? What's the easiest way to calm down? To get away from somebody. And that could be physically, that could be emotionally. And it's helpful to pay attention in your life of where am I using distance to manage some of that tension. We talked about earlier this idea of fusion that are very fused. They often will shift into distance so that you go back and forth. It's a little bit like a yo-yo. This sort of intense need for closeness, and then the allergicness kicks in and you need to be distanced from somebody. It's not that there's never a good reason to distance from somebody. There certainly can be. But is it a choice or is it automatic? And are there other choices? And I think to me, it's not what the decision is. Is the front part of your brain involved with the decision? Or is it just all reactivity? Whether it's somebody's cut off from their entire family, they have a friend group or a church group, and they say, these people are my family. Okay, sure. There's nothing wrong with that. Are you doing the same things in those relationships too?
If I keep running into the people who keep saying the same thing to me,
pretty good indication that maybe I'm the problem.
Maybe I'm the problem.
So in marriage, if you're one who's prone to give the silent treatment or just pull away whenever you're feeling flooded by your partner or hurt by your partner, how do you repair that?
I like to ask people, what does it look like to you to hang in there? What do you want to try? Is it being able to ask somebody a question or try and be interested in what's going on with them, even when you're feeling reactive? Is it being able to say to somebody, you know what, I need 5 minutes to see what I can do with myself and I will be back, and then honoring that. It's not that you never move away or distance. It's just that you have a plan for going back in versus just being moody or distant indefinitely. And that's a workout. Bowen had this idea that one of the best ways to work on your own maturity is to start to develop what he called a person-to-person relationship with everybody in your family of origin. And he defined that as being able to talk about things that aren't superficial, being able to talk about each other, not focusing on another person, like a celebrity or your kid, somebody you both hate. And the third thing was being able to relate without necessarily having another person present. Maybe it's easier then to be interested in them and curious about them in a way that it's hard to if you're just talking about the weather. In Bowen theory, there's this idea that two-person relationships get tense at some point. And what do we do to relieve the tension? We focus on or pull in a third person to manage the tension. So maybe that means you need another person present. Maybe that means you both worry about your kid a lot. Maybe that means you text your friend and say, you won't believe what my husband did today or what so and so did today. It can take different forms, but this idea that we involve other people in our tension in the one-to-one. And that's helpful to pay attention to because you don't always have to do that. You can keep it in the one-to-one, and that's a workout.
And those are deeper relationships if you can keep it one-to-one without triangulating.
If it keeps you from wanting to work on yourself in the one-to-one, it can get in the way. It can be a way of temporarily calming things down without having to do anything with yourself.
Do you have any examples about the couples triangulating and how that hurt the relationship, but then they were able to turn it around?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, other family members can be triangled in. If somebody's telling their mom or dad about their marriage, okay. It's hard, right? That puts somebody on the outside. If they know everything they do wrong or that they don't like about them is getting reported to somebody else. It's so natural for us as humans.
Well, it's a human desire to have allies, right? Mm-hmm. To have people who think like we do, who act like we do. And then when we start triangulating, that becomes more unhealthy. Just as you are saying, just neutrally aware, observant of the situation at hand and how I'm interpreting it.
To me, the goal is just to get maybe 2 or 3 seconds worth of time where you can ask yourself, do I really want to send this text complaining about my boss to somebody else? Or can I handle this distress that I feel and go back in there and see what I need to do in this relationship? There's another Viktor Frankl quote where he talks about something like, imagine that you're living your life a second time. Would you do what you're about to do now if you had another chance at it? Just to be 5% more thoughtful. Would you really need to use those triangles in this way? Or can you handle it?
I feel like we sometimes get pulled into a triangulation, maybe as the third person. We have that desire to people please, that we just feel like we need to be the ally for somebody who's struggling. And then it ends up becoming really problematic.
Learning how to just back off a little bit. It doesn't mean you're not interested, but it does mean, hey, I got to take a few breaths here, get back on and stabilize.
If you had to make a list of how to identify if you are emotionally regulating yourself or if you're using overfunctioning, underfunctioning, triangulation, distance, or people pleasing to regulate, what would be on that list?
Who are you pulling in? Who are you texting? Who are you reaching out to manage the tension moment to moment? Who are you trying to grow up? When are you acting helpless? So somebody else will do it for you. I think that about covers it. It's like, when are you managing others? When are you letting others manage you? And when are you just avoiding? I think it's really those three things.
That's scary though, Dr. Smith, to sit in a moment with anxiety. That's so scary.
It won't kill you. It won't kill you.
That's what he says. When our kids have felt like they were having a panic attack or something, that's what you're saying as well. Learning to sit in discomfort, it's uncomfortable. So really, what I hear you saying is all this comes down to using our own agency, using our own power instead of blaming other people, taking responsibility for ourselves, seeing our own part, which is so much about what we talk about here at Marriage IQ. If you had one last message to give our listeners about how we can learn to function better within our marriages, what would that be?
I talk a lot about being a researcher in your marriage or in your relationship. And I think that's what helps people be curious. Can you have a good hypothesis or a good question? Would that make a difference if I tried this for a couple of weeks? And that's just such a different way of thinking about a problem than, oh, what are we going to do about this? Why won't he change? And so if you can take in that sort of scientific spirit, let's say, into a relationship, I think people can get somewhere with that. Don't act like you have it figured out. Just have a good question or a good hypothesis. And then maybe you're wrong. Maybe it doesn't make a difference at all. But I think the change really starts there with being interested in what could work versus having it all figured out. And so I just tell people, where do you want to put your researcher hat on? What's the experiment you want to run this week? Go into the laboratory and see. And so I always like to leave folks with that.
That's awesome.
I love it.
That's great. So if people want to learn more about your ideas, your wisdom, where can they find you besides in the book, True to You?
I'm on Substack. My Substack is called The Anxious Overachiever, and people can find me there every week. This was a lot of fun. Thank you guys.
Thanks for being with us. Everybody, we'll see you next week on Marriage IQ.